Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
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 Mukham karoti vasaram pangum langayate girim Yadkripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataram Yadkripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. Continuing in the fourth canto, but beginning a new chapter. We have finished chapter 13, the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, and chapter 14 is entitled The Story of King Vena. Maitreya Uvacha.
Maitreya Uvacha.
Brigu
Brigu
Adayaha Te Munayo
Lokanam
Shema
Darshinaha
Guptari Asati Vai Nrinam Pashantaha Pashu Samyatam Maitreya Uvacha Brihvastayaste munayo Lokanam Kshema Darshinaha Goptaryasati vai Nrinam Pashanta Pashu Samyatam Maitreya Uvacha Brihvadayaste munayo Lokanam Kshemadarshinaha Goptaryasati vai Nrinam Pashanta Pashu Samyatam Maitreya Uvacha Brihvadayaste munayo Lokanam Kshemadarshinaha Goptaryasati vai Nrinam Pashanta Pashu Samyatam Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said.
The great sage Maitreya said.
The great sage Maitreya continued. Brigu Adayaha. Headed by Brigu. Te. All of them. Munayaha. The great sages. Lokanam. Of the people. Kshemadarshinaha. Who always aspire. For the welfare. Guptari. The king. Asati. Being absent. Vai. Certainly. Nrinam. Of all the citizens. Pashyantaha,
Pashyantaha,
having understood.
having understood.
Pashu samyatam,
Pashusamyatam,
existence on the level
existence on the level
of the animals.
of the animals.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The great sage of Maitreya continued, O great hero Vidura, the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. When they saw that in the absence of King Anga, there was no one to protect the interests of the people, they understood that without a ruler, the people will become independent and non-regulated. Kindly repeat after me. The great sage Maitreya continued.
The great sage Maitreya continued,
O great hero Vidura,
O great hero Vidura,
the great sages
the great sages
headed by Bhrigu
headed by Bhrigu
were always thinking
were always thinking
of the welfare of the people
of the welfare of the people
in general.
in general.
When they saw
When they saw
that in the absence
that in the absence
of King Anga,
of King Anga,
there was no one to protect
there was no one to protect
the interests of the people,
the interests of the people.
they understood
They understood
that without a ruler,
that without a ruler,
the people would become
the people would become
independent
independent
and non-regulated.
and non-regulated.
Purport. In this verse, Indra has something to tell us. In this verse, the significant word is Kshemadharshinaha, which refers to those who are always looking after the welfare of the people in general. All the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of how to elevate all the people of the universe to the spiritual platform. Indeed, they advised the kings of every planet to rule the people with that ultimate goal of life in mind. The great sages used to advise the head of the state, and he used to rule the populace in accordance with their instruction. After the disappearance of King Anga, there was no one to follow the instructions of the great sages. Consequently, all the citizens became unruly, so much so that they could be compared to animals. As described in the Bhagavad Gita 4.13, human society must be divided into 4 orders according to quality and work. In every society, there must be an intelligent class, administrative class, productive class, and worker class. In modern democracy, these scientific divisions are turned topsy-turvy. Everyone knows what is topsy-turvy? Upside down. Not improper. Yeah. The top becomes the bottom and the bottom becomes the top. Topsy-turvy. And by vote, Shudras or workers are chosen for administrative posts, having no knowledge of the ultimate goal of life. Such persons whimsically enact laws without knowledge of life's purpose. The result is that no one is happy. Translation again. The great sage Maitreya continued, O great hero, Vidura. The great sages, headed by Bhrigu, were always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. When they saw that in the absence of King Anga, there was no one to protect the interests of the people, they understood that without a ruler, the people would become independent and non-regulated. Something we can relate to, I think, in our 21st century. So here, headed by Bhrigu. Bhrigu is one of the great sages. I was just reading recently, born of fire. Do you know anyone born of fire? Now you know one, Bhrigu. In previous times, on previous planets, just like at the beginning of the creation, living entities were generated in a different way. We hear the description of how from the mind of Lord Brahma, or from different parts of his body, different living entities were generated. Not in keeping with the theory of evolution, but so Bhrigu, very, his birth is unusual, and he is one of the recognized saintly persons. So there is a reference being made here by Maitreya, who is speaking with Vidura, that when the citizens came to know that King Anga was no longer present with them, the saintly persons could immediately understand that if no one is there to replace King Anga, the citizens will become unregulated. And as mentioned here in the text also, Pashu Samyatam, Sama, similar to Pashu, to animals. Animals are unregulated. Unregulated means one becomes out of control. Someone just shared with me how in the present there's all kinds of calamities actually taking place in the world, as we know. The most talked about calamities in connection with this disease, virus, COVID-19 they call it. But recently also one major incident in America. There's always so many irregularities taking place. That is what is being referred to here. When there's no proper ruler, things get out of hand. So this one comment was made that so many, riots are taking place, especially in the U.S. right now, and 80%. It is estimated that 80% of the population is out of control. You might have seen that. 80%. You see, in a family, when you have one member out of control, you can kind of tolerate it. But when 80% of the members of your family or your community or your nation are out of control, then you have reasons to pull your hair. What to do? You know. So whole Vedic culture, this is nicely explained here, the primary goal and objective of saintly persons, because saintly persons means they know about dharma. They are always, like nicely explained, smritam cha tadidam rajam yena chatma prasidati. Very nice verse in the 7th canto. Dharma mulam hi bhagavan sarva vidamayo harihi smritam cha tadidam rajam yena chatma prasidati. Smriti means to remember. Our Shastra is divided into Shruti and Smriti, isn't it? Shruti, what is heard. Smriti, what is remembered. So Narada Muni explains actually that anyone who becomes a devotee, and we are all meant to become devotees, everyone is, that is a purpose of life, because originally by nature, our original nature is that we are devotees of Krishna. So the primary, we could say, meditation, or what we should be constantly remembering, always keeping in focus, smritam, is this primary goal and purpose of life. Knowing that so many different obstacles will be there, so many different problems, and the world, as we know, is full of problems. Kali Yuga is an ocean of problems, as we hear from Bhagavatam. But for our acharyas explained that actually for a devotee who is actually cultivating or practicing to think or to meditate in this way, there's only 4 problems, isn't it? If we can come to that understanding, that conviction, there's actually only 4 problems. Everything else is our own made problem. And we are very expert in Kali Yuga. At seeing things as problem, at creating problems. Problems will be there, generated, we think maybe generated from us or from outside, but actually it's all generated from us. In that without the spiritual touch or spiritual understanding, we make something into a problem that is not actually a problem. Especially, we very often the tendency is there, especially in the secular world. It is also there in the devotional world sometimes. We have a tendency of pointing out what's wrong in others. We want to correct others. That tendency is there. We see problems in others because it's not according to what we think. This is, of course, very dangerous, especially Shastra is teaching us that we should primarily be focusing on our own advancement in spiritual life. And we should be so preoccupied with that we have practically no other time to think about others' spiritual life or to try and play the role of God, because that's Krishna's role, either directly or through his material energy, through his Mohini Prakriti. That's why those rare, far in between souls who are on that platform of Paramahamsa, they see everyone under Krishna's control. They see everything is in control. Even those who are in Maya, they're controlled by Maya. Yeah. So one doesn't bother because it's like, Krishna doesn't bother. Of course, Krishna bothers, but Krishna does not interfere, is what I wanted to say, with our desire to do this or to do that, because our philosophy is that love is not something that can be imposed upon another individual. It very much has to become spontaneous. Of course, for love to become spontaneous, it doesn't happen immediately. Spontaneous means natural. But we are not in our natural condition, being heavily influenced by the gunas, or the modes of material nature. And that's why in the Vedic culture, someone who's called a king or a leader in society, who knows the principles of dharma, he is meant to regulate the lives, help individuals become regulated. And of course, again, we didn't choose this purport, but the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas are again referred to. That is the system, we say in French, par excellence, and in English they say it in different ways, par excellence or whatever. Anyways, par excellence is the French term. It means it's the topmost arrangement. It is Krishna's arrangement. If we allow that arrangement to take place, if we adopt that arrangement that Krishna, many, many years ago there used to be, and none of you will know this because, well, first of all, you're not from America, although some of you have been to America. There used to be a series when I was quite young, and the name of the series was Father Knows Best. It was very popular. It was a family, had a couple of kids, and there was always some kind of problem. And the person who gave the solution was the father. Nowadays, maybe that series is probably not popular anymore. I said, mother knows best. Or daughter knows best. Or son knows best. So, because, this goes back, I don't know, at least 50, 60 years. When the culture was still, closer. The culture, even in America, in Canada and the U.S., of course, the U.S. has always been more advanced in degradation, more advanced in, being unregulated. But some 50, 60 years ago, it's like, Prabhupada used to speak like this, 50 years ago it was like this. Of course, it's always, so 50 years ago, the culture in general around the world was much closer to, we could say, the Vedic culture, in that adults or parents were respected, isn't it? There was a family, a sense of family. There was a family unity. And of course, in the last 50 years, practically speaking, that has become destroyed, as we know. And it's extremely difficult. That's why Prabhupada explains that, to reestablish these principles of Varna and Asrama is practically impossible. Even sometimes he says it's impossible, or very, very difficult. He says that a few times. And some devotees like to especially select those verses. You see, Prabhupada said. But on the whole, Prabhupada indicated that although it is very difficult, this is the standard. It's like, it is also very difficult to develop our natural love for Krishna. It is very difficult to develop our natural love for other living entities, regardless of which species they belong to, human species or animal species. I mean, we have one of the major problems in the world today. We have become so hard-hearted, callous, without care. Callous means very. We say sometimes a heart of steel, steel-hearted. Heart actually is meant to be very soft, because nature of the spirit soul living entity is to be in that kind of natural loving relationship with Krishna, that spontaneous relationship with Krishna, which is meant to be reflected, which has to be reflected in our relationship with other living entities. Again, whether they are human or other species. But it begins, as it is mentioned here, by becoming regulated. Regulation. That's why sadhana bhakti means bhakti following regulation, following rules and regulation. We perform bhakti at that level, not always in ecstasy. As a matter of fact, most of the time it's not ecstatic to follow all kinds of rules and regulations because of our conditioning, etc. So this is being pointed out here, actually, that without the presence of a righteous king, a king who was born from a long lineage of saintly persons following the principles of dharma, the citizens became unruly. So it is a very important component, which is a must actually within society. Any society where the vast majority of people are not, like in such a yuga, on the, we could say, Brahmabhuta platform. Brahmabhuta prasanatmana suchatina kansati, they were totally equiposed, transcendentally situated. So therefore, kings, rulers, but saintly kings, saintly rulers who know the principles of dharma are very, very necessary. And on many occasions, Srila Prabhupada, of course, spoke about this. And this particular example, as we will continue to read this chapter, we will see how the consequences of what happens when such a qualified personality is not there. And when, as the sages will be deciding, they will be putting King Vena, they will enthrone him actually as a king, but only for a short period of time. Yeah. So we can read one or two more verses possibly. Kshema Darshinaha. Prabhupada especially is focusing on this point that this is meant to be the foremost thought or quality of sadhus. This also is nicely explained by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Being concerned about the welfare, Korapara upakar, for the greater welfare of living entities. That is the special characteristic. Okay. Second verse has no purport. Anyways, you can read the second and third verse. Text number 2. Viram mataram ahuya sunitham drama vadinaha prakritya samatam venam abhya shincham tatim bhuvaha. The great sages then called for the queen mother, Sunita, and with her permission they installed Vena on the throne as master of the world. Wow. Little did they know. All the ministers, however, disagreed with this. That's interesting. Let's read this again. The great sages then called the queen mother, and with her permission they installed Vena. So all the sages, the brahmanas, with the permission of the mother of King Vena, but against the advice, I suppose, of the ministers, they installed. There's no purport to this. Actually, in the Vedic culture, ministers are meant to be brahmanas. Advisors, advisor ministers. So I don't know, different levels of sages. Brahmanas are supposed to be sages as well. But sometimes we'll see some sage overriding another sage. Text number 3. Shrutva niripasana gatam venam achudra shasanam niliyur dashiva sadya sarpatrasta iva kavaha. Translation and short purport. It was already known that Vena was very severe and cruel. Psychology. Therefore, as soon as all the thieves and rogues in the heard of his ascendance to the royal throne, they became very much afraid of him. Here's a big rogue.
Some good.
Indeed, they hid themselves here and there as rats hide themselves from snakes. So that was like an immediate solution to the problem.
Some points.
So Prabhupada gives a short purport. When the government is very weak, rogues and thieves flourish. Similarly, when the government is very strong, all the thieves and rogues disappear and hide themselves. Of course, Vena was not a very good king, but he was known to be cruel and severe. Thus, the state at least became freed from thieves and rogues. Instead of many thieves and rogues, there was only one. The king of the rogues, the king of the thieves. He had monopoly. Yeah. So maybe it will be explained later on. I don't know. There's kind of like a difference of opinion between sages and ministers. Again, ministers are especially trained up This is next week. Actually, we are presenting our fourth module on this online courses we're giving with our Varnasrama College online, which will be on the topic of the science of politics. Whenever people hear the word politics, it's a very attractive word. But in that course, I don't want to go ahead of myself here too much, but it mentions about, in detail as well, very interesting, all of the different prerequisites or qualities that are meant to be developed, that a minister is meant to have. Our Shastra goes into great detail to help us understand what is actually needed for someone to be like a king. That's also very nicely delineated, again in detail. I mean, we know that for Vaishnavas, what is it? 26 qualities, right? Of a Vaishnava. 24? 26?
26.
26 qualities of a Vaishnava. But when we read the qualities for a king, there's something like, I think, 50. I mean, it's more difficult to become a qualified king in the Vedic context. And ministers also need to develop many, many qualities. I'm sure many of these qualities are very similar to the qualities Vaishnavas are meant to develop as well. But because Kshatriyas, either as kings or as ministers, are meant to deal with so many different situations in society, therefore they need to develop, for example, they should be always speaking with a smile, speaking nice words with a smile. One of many different qualities that are mentioned like that. So this chapter is, we're just in the very beginning here. It should bring us to some interesting developments regarding King Vena. Okay. Comments or questions from anyone? Different question. We're in a different class. One devotee from Karnataka congregation sent a question. Here we are, getting answering questions from Karnataka. Okay, go ahead.
In Bangalore, like on Jagannath, we put karpur and pumpkin and do like this.
When Rath Yatra begins, we have a ceremony where we take a pumpkin and then we put some, camphor. We light the camphor and we go like this and then?
That heart you will not take. It is removing the inauspiciousness of the Lord. That is called in
Removing the inauspicious. How come the Lord has inauspicious? You mean because he was ill? How come the Lord was ill?
Children, mother will do like removing some kind of like the same way Yashoda also used to take care of Krishna. Bad elements. Bad things are there. Bad elements. Before you are doing any auspicious activity, you ask me a question. So the point is.
So let's get to the point.
So the question is, he told me, Srimad Swami in Sri Sampradaya, he told that morning Mangalarti is also like that. So that harti we should not take over. I told that.
Okay, some Swami from some Sampradaya is telling that Mangalarti is like that and therefore we should not be taking the lamp. Yeah. Well, we don't follow that Sampradaya.
Simple answer.
I mean, possibly I've not read, so I cannot I cannot and should not speculate on it. But if there is an explanation that before Lord Jagannath, at the beginning of the Rath Yatra festival, this ceremony is performed, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, one would have to get reference on that, of course, but if offering this pumpkin with this camphor is meant to remove any kinds of inauspiciousness that might be there, of course, not in the Lord, but whatever, then that is generally thrown on the ground. You're saying that it should not be, people should not be taking that lamp. If that is there, established, that is possibly very unique for that particular situation. But this is the first time, the very, very first time, that I hear that Mangalarti, the first Arati, is similar, and that we should not be, from day one in ISKCON, we offer the lamp on the altar, then it's offered to Srila Prabhupada, as we know, and then to all the. So unless there is some, sometimes statements are made. Statements are made all the time, not sometimes, and it creates controversy. So unless one has some direct reference from Shastra, because that is how we can understand, then we cannot just accept somebody's statement, even though one may be a sannyasi or swami or whatever like that. But it might be part of a little research you could be doing for all of us, just to get to the find out the mystery of this kind of doubt or question that is coming all the way from Kakinada. And maybe you can convey to your friends that you can pull them in to help you in that research. Whatever it is that we accept, whatever it is we follow, it needs to be based on Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And in our particular case, we uphold the words given by our founder Acharya. Of course, they are meant to be, and to our knowledge, they are in line with Sadhu and Shastra. Sometimes on some minor principles, there might be some differences between sadhus. Then it has to be addressed or decided by, you could say, higher authorities. And we've had such kind of things or issues within our ISKCON society. We have them now also, and they will be there in the future as well, because this is the material world, and the subject matter of dharma is a very deep subject matter as well, and sometimes there will be so-called gray areas and whatnot. Yeah. Yes? Hare Krishna. Yeah, keep the questions coming in. Jai Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Gauri Krishna.